My name is Sandy Brockhouse, and I am the general manager at Uptown Rapid, and I have been with the property for almost 7 years. My first day of my job, I signed my first deal because I had already started recruiting even before I had started. I'm like, hey, I'm going to work at the mall. Hey, you looking for space? I got a space for you. So I started that like a couple weeks prior to even starting here. June 26, 2021, and I am canvassing in Billings, Montana. And I get the call from our home office here in Rapid City from our office manager at the time. She says, Sandy, you're never going to believe this. The notice just went out in the newspaper. Rushmore Mall has gone into foreclosure. And I said, what? What is happening? Washington Prime owned us at the time. Nobody gave us a forewarning. We had no clue this notice and what was about to hit the mainstream. So here we are, aside from the general manager who ended up going with Washington Prime. So he left that day. He didn't tell us anything. Nobody told us anything. And here we are. We have the news outlets calling the mall left and right, and we don't even know what has gone on ourselves. Everybody was just trash talking the mall because now we were going into foreclosure. Nobody, everybody thought the mall was closing. Nobody wanted to come to the mall. The mall it was going down. It was a sinking ship. And who wants to get on that?
Hi, I'm Andy Weiner, president of Rockstep Capital. I found out about Rapid City as an interesting market to research because we owned a property in South Dakota, in north central South Dakota, called Aberdeen, South Dakota. One of our top executives lives in Aberdeen, Beth Isaacson-Haft, and she and I were talking about other markets in that part of the Midwest that would be a good opportunity for Rockstep, and she mentioned Rapid City.
Well, I actually live in South Dakota, so I know Rapid City extremely well. I was the director of acquisitions at the time that we purchased Rushmore Mall.
Beth and I talked about opportunities in South Dakota, and her daughter plays volleyball, and youth sports tourism is a very big thing in the United States. They were always going to Rapid City. And she said, Andy, you gotta put Rapid City on the radar. I asked her to look at the mall.
What we really liked when we looked at the mall site, just the value of the asset itself. Buying 100 acres of land that's located on Interstate 90 with two major interstate accesses that feed into the property. And it's just a fantastic piece of real estate. We looked at it in fall of 2019. We did not purchase the property until fall of 2021. We came to the table and we're looking at this acquisition and bidding against other bidders. Really went through the entire due diligence underwriting process and came down to being one of the final bidders, but did not get the final bid on this property. Initially, we walked away from the table, and 6 months, 9 months, a year later, the seller came back to us and the deal had fallen through.
I had poured and still have poured my heart and soul into this property. I had leased, multiple $1 million worth of deals in just a couple of years. And I was taking over the social media, doing videos, and just really trying to bring this mall back to life. So it was very strange that I would be fired. But of course, the mall was for sale. People would ask me, is the roof bad? Well, yeah, we had hail damage. We got some roof leaks. So just being honest and being truthful, but I was fired for it. So they tell me I'm fired. I'm like, all right, that's all right. But in the meantime, I'm still thinking not Rockstep, but this other company is going to buy the mall. And that company wanted to hire me back. So I kind of like, well, they'll have me back, in a couple of months when the deal's done. Well, in the meantime, that deal fell through. So a couple weeks later, that deal totally dissolves. So I'm like, well, I'm out totally, because whoever buys this mall, they're not going to call the chick that got fired.
We started the bidding process and the underwriting process in the fall of 2019. We were against other bidders and we lost that bid. Then the seller came back to us after that deal fell through and the buyer walked away from the table because we were a credible bidder the first go round, because we were willing to walk away from the table instead of increase our bid. We earned a credibility, I think, with the seller, that we knew what we were talking about, that we were a respectable bidder that would close on the deal if we said this is what we feel like it is worth. We're not going to keep going back to the table multiple times and changing the game plan. And so that respect very much opened a door, I think, for us at the end where we were able to negotiate a very good deal on this center because we were a reliable and respected bidder.
That day that I finished cleaning out the last few things in my office, the operations manager moved into my office, and now he thinks he's going to become the general manager. And now Rockstep's interested in the property. Well, Beth had called me in June and asked me a couple questions, and I'm thinking, why are they calling me? They know I'm fired. So I'm thinking they might be interested in the mall, and they might be interested in me. So fast forward now, almost exactly 3 months later, in July, Andy calls me. And he says, this is Andy Weiner, owner of Rockstep Capital. I just want to let you know you are the second person I called. We have just put in an offer on the mall and hope to close. And I'm coming to town next week. I'd like to meet you.
We bought the property knowing that portions of the roof were deficient. That was one thing that gave me pause. We decided instead that we were going to be judicious and spend about $1 million and then replace the roof, the worst portions of the roof, slowly over time. The second thing is that there were 2 vacant anchors. What is our ability to re-tenant and reuse both of those buildings, particularly the Herberger's building, because it was behind the mall, not facing the interstate? The Sears building has a great frontage facing the interstate. Those were the 2 things that really gave me pause: the quality of the roof and our ability to redevelop the 2 vacant anchor spaces. But it was a great buy. So in real estate investing, the ability to hit your investment targets is very dependent on buying the property at the right price. The property was worth about $115 to $120 million. We were able to buy the property for $12 million. So we bought it at a fraction of its previous capitalization, effectively about 10% of its previous capitalization. And we bought a main mall piece, 3 restaurants in front, shopping center to the side, land at the back. So we didn't buy just the mall, we bought all the pieces to it. So the arbitrage was buy the property cheap, sell pieces of the property at a higher price. We're selling off all the different pieces of the property for about $15 million. We paid $12 million, we're selling off the periphery for $15 million, and we're left with the mall piece of the property that still throws off $2.25 million of net operating income. Now, the other thing that we inherited was Sandy Brockhouse, and she's just a superstar. She is an amazing property manager, but better than that, she's very creative in terms of finding local and regional tenants. She's got a knack, she's got a way about herself. She has brought in over 10 local and regional tenants. She's a superstar.
I believe that the future of the mall is going to be very bright. Rockstep and the redevelopment process is top notch. What we have planned for the potential of this property is going to make this the shining star on the I-90 corridor.
This property has been extremely good for our investors. When we buy an enclosed mall that is distressed, that is opportunistic, we target an 18% IRR, or basically an 18% return, double your investment over a 5-year period. This property should exceed a 40% IRR. Investors should do somewhere between 2.75 and 3 times their original investment over a 5-year period. In Rapid City, we have 7 business leaders who have invested with this property. I'm not at liberty to say who they are. When we bought the property taxes were valued at the old capitalization rate. We paid $12 million for the property. So we needed guidance on how we should work with the county to successfully lower property taxes. They gave us that guidance. In addition, in 2020, we had a supply chain shortage. There was a big problem getting construction done at all on time and within a reasonable budget. There was a dramatic increase in construction costs. And one of our investors is the leading construction company in the market. And as a result, we worked with them to try to figure out how we could manage our construction costs. Without having them as a local investor, we would have paid more money for construction. So the strategy going forward for Uptown Rapid, do a refi, a cash out refi, which means we basically have no debt right now. And what that means is you go to your lender and you say, okay, given the fact that we've got $2.25 million of net operating income, given the fact we've got some raw land in the rear, how much can we borrow based upon that appraisal? We then borrow those funds, return those funds to investors, and that helps the investment return. That's strategy number one. Strategy number two is to sell the 12 acres to a national home improvement store and to sell the Sears building to a national discount store. When we sell the property to a national discount store, it's an opportunity for us to redevelop the property and make it more modern. To do that, we will probably need city incentives to help us finance a redevelopment of the property. And we're working with our local investors to try to figure out if we can put all that together. For the first 3 years or 2.5 years of the property, we went to certain national tenants and they weren't interested. But today, we have a national home improvement store who's interested in the back empty 12 acres, and we have a national discount store that's currently interested in the Sears location. So we're working that strategy.
We have more small businesses at Uptown than we do at downtown. We have more shopping experience at Uptown than we do downtown. We have everything in one location under one roof, where we're a balmy 70 degrees all year long, even in South Dakota. So it is a great asset. It's a great asset to have, especially in the North Country, to have an indoor shopping plaza under one roof, easy parking. It is well maintained. Rockstep, what I loved about Rockstep too is when they came on scene, we had so much deferred maintenance when we went back to the bank that we were not able to, say, fix the roof like we should, fix the parking lot, fix the potholes, do a little bit of improvement in the food court or out front. We could not do that. Our hands were tied. I could only do the bare minimum when we were bank owned because that was orders from the bank.
We spent close to $400,000 on new signage, upgrading the roofing, upgrading the parking lot, and seal coating the parking lot and restriping the parking lot. In addition, we decided to upgrade signage. We did a name change. So we changed the name of the property from Rushmore Mall to Uptown Rapid. We like this property because it's perfect. It's a perfect acquisition. It's in a great market with essential drivers. The market is growing. It's got Air Force, it's got tourism, hospital district, university, population growth. It's got all of the right dynamics. The property's well located. It's on the interstate. We're buying all the different pieces of it, not just a portion, at a very favorable price. You're able to get a team of local investors who are the business leaders in the market to put their own money into the deal. Tenants do well. We have vacant anchors that now have desirability for some national tenants who want to be in the market. It's been perfect.